Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Barham Ferguson. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors as well as students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Yamba Public School and Byron Bay Public School. And from Queensland, Grand Avenue State School, Forest Lake. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem? Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Francis James Dennis. Born in 1895 in Corn, South Australia, and popularly known as Frank, Trooper Francis Dennis was educated at the local public school and was employed as a labourer in the area when he enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 15th of January in 1916. Trooper Dennis was initially assigned to the 3rd Light Horse Regiment and embarked from Adelaide aboard HMAT Bakara on the 28th of April, sailing to Egypt. When he arrived in early June, he was briefly absorbed into the main unit, but a month later transferred to the Imperial Camel Corps. The Imperial Camel Corps was formed in order to deal with the revolt of the pro-Turkish Senussi tribesmen in Egypt's western desert. In early 1916, the Corps undertook long patrols and brief skirmishes with the Senussi tribesmen, and the latter part of the year it was transferred to the Sinai Desert to take part in operations against the Turkish army. Here, the battalions of the Imperial Camel Corps fought alongside Australian light horse units at Romani, Magba, and in January of 1917, Rafah. The British and Dominion Force then began advancing north through Palestine. The Camel Corps was integral in this advance. One of its main engagements was the Second Battle of Gaza, which took place on the 19th of April in 1917, and where it suffered heavy losses. Dennis had come through all such battles unscathed, but at the end of June he became ill and spent a little over a month in hospital and on convalescence leave, returning to duty early in August of that year. In November, the Camel Corps was part of operations to destroy the Turkish defensive line between Gaza and Beersheba. On the 6th of November in 1917, Dennis's battalion was ordered to attack Tel Kuelfa. Corporal Les Colbert wrote to Dennis's mother to tell her what had happened. We went into action. We gained the foot of a big ridge and a rush was called for. Your boy, with the remainder of his gun team, took up a position on the left of our company. I was a bit to the right. Shortly after taking up this position, Frank, whilst on the gun and firing, received his wound. He lived for about an hour and died very peacefully. Colbert said 5 men in Frank's team had been awarded Distinguished Conduct Medals for the action, and one of the DCMs would have been certainly Frank's had he lived, as it was his gameness in rushing up to the position that won the day for us. Dennis was buried nearby by the battalion chaplain. Following the end of the war, his body was exhumed and reinterred at Beersheba War Cemetery. He was 22 years old. In the months following his death, Dennis's mother received a letter from the officer commanding his company. He wrote that during the fighting, Dennis and another soldier moved a gun into place which practically saved the position. Both men were killed in doing so, but he said that their positioning of the gun enabled 2 more men to get in and go to work and carry on. He was a boy any parent could be proud of when he was alive, and still more so now he is dead, as he did one of the bravest deeds I've ever seen, said his commanding officer. Trooper Francis James Dennis is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. And we now remember Trooper Francis James Dennis, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.